Ever feel like international business is this big mystery? Like you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg?
It can definitely feel that way.
Well, today we are doing a deep dive into that iceberg.
Oh, I like where this is going. What iceberg are we tackling?
We're diving into the world of Mexican accounting software.
Really? Okay, now I'm intrigued.
Specifically, a program called Sistema de Contafiscal. It's made by a company called Control 2000.
Interesting. I haven't heard of that one before. What's special about it?
Well, for starters, it's popular enough to have a whole YouTube channel dedicated to explaining how to use it.
Huh. That is interesting. You know what they say? Got to go where the users are.
And that's exactly what we're doing because our source material for this deep dive is the transcripts from those YouTube tutorials.
Oh, wow. Talk about getting into the weeds.
Right. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty of Mexican accounting, all thanks to Control 2000's YouTube channel.
I love it. It's like a back door into understanding how businesses operate down there.
Exactly. And the first transcript we're looking at is titled One Creación de Empresa, which basically means company creation.
Setting the stage. I like it.
And right away, they hit you with the importance of the RFC.
Ah, yes, the RFC. The Registro Federal de Contribuyentes. It's like the social security number for businesses in Mexico. Every business needs one.
It's interesting, though, the software really seems to emphasize it right from the start, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. And it makes sense if you think about it. In Mexico, the RFC isn't just an ID number. It's deeply integrated into their entire system.
Right. It's connected to electronic invoicing, payroll, basically a whole web of other systems.
It's all about that digital paper trail. And that makes perfect sense, given Mexico's big push in recent years for electronic accounting and tax reporting.
It makes you wonder how much of that is driven by the software itself.
That's a great question. It's like this software isn't just reflecting the rules, it's actively shaping how businesses adapt to them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What else is in this company creation section?
Well, after you input the RFC, it's time to set your fiscal year.
Okay, pretty standard stuff so far.
Right. But there's this one detail that I found kind of curious.
Oh, tell me more.
So even if a company starts operating mid-year, the software calculates everything over a full 12 months.
That is interesting. It seems a bit unusual at first glance. It makes me think there's something in Mexican tax law about needing a full year on record, even if the company wasn't active for all of it. Maybe it's advantageous for things like annual reporting or depreciation.
It's like they've hardwired the software to align with those tax implications right from day one.
Exactly. We're seeing that tight link between accounting and regulations play out already.
Right. And speaking of seeing things play out, when we look at the transcripts labeled 2 menu principal and 3 catalogos, it's surprising how organized this software is.
Oh, is it user-friendly?
Surprisingly, yes. You've got your typical accounting software menus, accounts, journal entries, modules, reports, but then it gets really granular with these things called rubros.
Rubros?
Yeah, have you ever encountered those before?
Not really. What are they all about?
Basically, they're categories for classifying accounts, which seems like it provides a more detailed breakdown than what you might see in other accounting systems.
So instead of just having your basic assets, liabilities, and equity, it's like they're breaking it down even further.
Exactly. It seems to point to a big emphasis on transparency and detailed reporting in Mexican accounting. Like they're saying, show us everything.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. It's all about those details.
And it gets even more granular. They've got conceptos and subconceptos, too.
Hold on, more categories. What are those all about?
Think of those like super specific cost centers. They're designed to let businesses track expenses and allocate resources really, really precisely.
Well, it's like they gamified meticulous accounting or something.
Right. It really does seem like more than just crunching numbers. This is about meticulous organization and a commitment to transparency that's almost baked into the software itself.
It really is amazing what you can learn about a system just by digging into the software, right?
It's like every little feature tells a story.
Speaking of features, let's move on to something that's always top of mind for businesses. Fixed assets.
Fixed assets. The bread and butter of any balance sheet. What kind of insights did you glean from the transcript titled Six Activos?
Well, get ready for this one because it seems Mexican businesses have to deal with separate depreciation rates for accounting purposes versus tax purposes.
Wait, hold on. They have to calculate depreciation twice using different rates.
That seems to be the case, yes.
Talk about a headache. Why even bother with that extra layer of complexity?
It seems like double the work, doesn't it? But it actually points to a pretty clever strategy for incentivizing investment.
Okay, now I'm all ears. Explain this to me.
So, For their financial reporting, a company might use a depreciation rate that really reflects the actual decline in an asset's value over time. Slow and steady.
Right, the matching principle and all that.
Exactly. But for tax purposes, they might be able to use an accelerated rate, which means they can deduct a larger expense up front.
So it's like a little bonus from the government to encourage businesses to invest in new equipment and keep things moving.
Precisely. It's all about stimulating economic growth by making it financially attractive for companies to keep upgrading their assets. And of course, the software is built to handle this whole dance between accounting principles and tax regulations.
That's wild. It's like two different realities running in parallel.
And the software keeps everything in sync. It's impressive, actually.
Very impressive. Okay, so we've tackled fixed assets. What's next on our software safari? Let's see. We've got 7 reports. Admittedly, this one sounds a bit dry, even for an accounting deep dive.
Don't underestimate the power of a good report.
Okay, fair enough. You've piqued my curiosity. What hidden gems did you find in the reports section?
Well, one thing that jumped out at me was that Sistema de Contafiscal lets you generate reports in both PDF and XML format.
Okay, PDF, that makes sense. It's pretty standard for reports. But XML, why is that significant? It seems like overkill for accounting.
It's all about Mexico's commitment to electronic accounting and digital tax filing. XML provides a standardized way for businesses to electronically submit their accounting data to the SAT, which is the Mexican Tax Authority.
So it's like a universal language that both the software and the SAT can understand.
Exactly. No more printing out stacks of paper and mailing them in. This streamlines everything, reduces errors.
And probably saves a whole lot of trees in the process.
You got it. It's all about transparency, efficiency, and keeping up with the digital age.
Speaking of efficiency, let's move on to 8 Termino year-end closing. That's the part where even the most seasoned accountants start sweating a little bit.
It can get pretty hairy.
But it seems like Sistema de Contafiscal has got you covered.
It seems that way. They've got this thing called a Póliza de Término, which is basically the year-end closing entry.
Okay, so it automatically zeroes out all the income statement accounts. That's pretty standard procedure, isn't it?
Yes, but they describe the process in a way that makes me think there's some unique automation happening behind the scenes. It's subtle, but it seems like the software might be handling some of the more tedious aspects of year-end closing automatically. Things like creating reversing entries, transferring balances, that sort of thing.
So less manual work for accountants, more time for celebrating the end of the fiscal year.
I guess that's one way to look at it. It really speaks to this broader trend in accounting software, where developers are doing everything they can to automate complex tasks and make life easier for users.
Love it when software works smarter, not harder. All right, we've got a few more transcripts to explore, and these ones sound especially intriguing. 9 Utilari's utilities, 10 Usarios users, and 11 Respaldos backups. We're about to get into the nuts and bolts of this software.
Now we're getting to the good stuff, because it's often those behind-the-scenes features that really give you a feel for how a system works.
Okay, let's dive into these behind-the-scenes features. First up, 9 Utilari's utilities. Anything in there that screams hidden gem?
Oh, absolutely. One feature that really stood out to me was the ability to import journal entries from Excel spreadsheets.
Oh, see, that's the kind of practical stuff I love. I've spent countless hours manually entering data into accounting software. It's the worst.
It's a pain we've all felt. But this import feature, it's more than just convenience. It tells us a few things about the software.
Okay, lay it on me. What's it telling us?
Well, for one, it suggests they've thought about data migration. Companies can switch to Sistema de Contafiscal without having to start from scratch, which is huge.
Oh, for sure. Nobody wants to reinvent the wheel when they're switching software.
Exactly. And it also hints at integration with other business systems.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, think inventory management systems or point-of-sale systems. A lot of them export data in Excel format. So this makes it super easy to get that information into the accounting software. It's all about flexibility.
Makes sense. Okay, what about 10 Usarios users? Did you find anything interesting about how the software handles user accounts and permissions?
Definitely. There's this feature called Bitácora de Sucesos, which basically translates to event log.
Okay, and what does this event log track?
Basically everything. It records every single user action within the software, who accessed what, when they accessed it, any changes they made. It's all logged.
So it's like a digital trail of breadcrumbs for every single action in the system?
You got it. And that takes us right back to that theme we keep seeing, the emphasis on audit trails and accountability in Mexican accounting.
Makes you think twice about trying any funny business.
Right. In a system that's so reliant on electronic invoicing and digital tax reporting, having these detailed records is essential. It's about trust and transparency.
Speaking of essential, let's wrap up with 11 Respaldos backups.
The interesting thing here is that they don't just mention backups, they emphasize scheduling automatic
Like,
backups.
they're not messing around. Data security is clearly a top priority.
It's not just a suggestion, it's like they're saying, we've got your backups built right into the software.
I love it. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We started with the basics of company creation, uncovered some intriguing quirks about fixed assets and depreciation, explored the world of XML reports, and even ventured into those behind-the-scenes features like data backups and user logs. It's amazing what you can learn about a country's business practices just by dissecting its accounting software.
It's like a crash course in Mexican accounting.
Right. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the level of detail and transparency that's built into their system.
It definitely makes you think about the bigger picture, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you wonder how these features might evolve as technology keeps advancing and accounting practices around the world start to converge. It's a fascinating time to be in the world of business.
Really is always something new to discover.
To our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity. If you're ever feeling lost in the world of international business, remember that sometimes the best way to understand a system is to start with the software that drives it. Until next time.